if this isn't even on the Bureau's website yet, and we have to apply for this program within 2 weeks, I mean, do we have to submit something? I mean, will they have something like this on for us to complete, to apply?
I don't know.
Are they going to wait till the day before?
I don't believe that you're going to have to fill this out to do the application. That's not my understanding. I believe this is a document that once you are accepted into the program, that you will then have to fill this out. They have specified some things that you must complete within increments of time after acceptance, and I'll get to that. As far as when this has to be done, I don't know.
Okay.
And I haven't been able to get anyone to give me a firm answer on that.
Every program that the Bureau has, the Bureau publishes what they call a technical manual, which gets into all the gory details of what you have to do, what the criteria are, etc., and how they grade it, well, to an extent. They haven't finished the technical manual for this yet. So that's why there's really, we don't know the guts of exactly how they're going to live up to or expect you to live up to the items that are on the website. Presumably, shortly after June 30th, they would let you know so that you could, if you were totally aghast at what they were going to require, you could withdraw from it.
You know, that's the other thing with this program. You can participate, and then for a year, if you don't want to do it, you can pull out. A year later, you want to get back in, you can get back in. You can kind of jump on and off ship at your leisure. What's that?
Currently.
Current, yeah. As we speak today. Was there a question? Yes.
Yes, what if we chose not to do this, just keep our plan the way it is? And I realize there's no discounts involved or anything like that, but is that something that we could do? Is that an option? And I know it's no longer patterned by the DFSP anymore.
Right.
You would just have to self-police yourself. So,
Yeah.
it's your program.
Right.
So
So
there's,
just like
yeah,
a company policy.
exactly. It's your company policy.
If you've got it in place, I'll recommend that you don't take this off the table from your company.
You mean the drug-free safety, the drug-free workplace?
Yes. Forget about the name. Focus on the program.
Right.
Focus on the outcome. Forget about the name. The outcome is that you know in your shop, for the most part, you have employees that are coming to work locked and loaded and ready to go.
Right.
Okay, they're not stone drunk or high. That's the outcome that you're trying to achieve.
Right.
So whether there's, you know, a hard dollar incentive that's coming into the company, that's one thing to focus on. But that's why I made the mention of kind of that soft reward that you don't often see. How do you quantify dollar-wise how many accidents you prevented? How do you quantify that and put it into real dollars? You can extrapolate it into potential projected savings, but I can tell you, you know, one tow motor accident for some guy with a guy that he's just cracked out of his mind, takes out a machine, runs somebody over, and if you could have prevented that by having a drug and alcohol program in your facility.
Right, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying just to keep our drug-free work policy, whatever you want to call it, drug-free program in place as is. So
I would.
You could always, if you choose not to adhere to these new
Right.
requirements, I think is what you're asking.
Right.
You just, I mean, we can
Because
help
it's
you
a valuable
identify.
program to keep in place. I wouldn't pull it off the table, but do we want to change it to the way they're doing it now? That's the
Right,
question.
just because you may decide to forfeit the money that the Bureau would give you to keep a program that you're comfortable with, which might not meet their expectations, because you don't want to do that much. But you have a program there.
Well, let's say we do change, and I would assume that we would have to alter or adjust our actual written policy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's got a safety component now.
Very much so.
Okay.
But you have an approved policy already by the Bureau for drug-free workplace.
Right.
So you've met that initial criteria, you're good.
And the Bureau will look at your policy as what they call their comparable program. And it would still be good in their eyes, but it would be under their comparable program. You just wouldn't get the discount.
Even if I didn't change it?
They would look at that as a
Okay.
comparable
But if I
program.
changed it, then
You would have to
within
go,
these
right.
guidelines.
And even
Okay.
if you didn't do the June 30th date, you could go afterwards and you would just have your policy start the January 2011, and you would still be under the same guidelines as your old policy.
Well, it's my understanding that all we have to have in by January, or June 30th is the application.
Application.
And the rest comes later.
Right.
So I'm not changing
Supposedly.
my policy before June 30th, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly, and there's some gaps in information on dates. You know, and to maybe expound on your question a little bit more, you know, in medical terms, we're often judged by what's called standard of care. You're evaluated for what kind of treatment you've given a patient. It's often quantified by standard of care, standardized levels of care for someone. If you have a program in place, just as was mentioned, a comparable program, even though you're not linking it to the requirements of the Bureau, a standard of care has been established, long established, as to these are what we feel are rational components to the program. And if you maintain that to that level, I think that you're going to be in a good place. If you relinquish that and kind of pick and choose what portions you want to grab and maybe not put them in place all the way, or part of this will work, part of it won't, you've compromised perhaps what's been established as that standard of care for this program. So going forward, even if you're not linking it to the Bureau, use those as guidelines to perhaps steer your program. Yes, Peter?
And Joe, if they have had an attorney review, that lends more strength
Absolutely.
to what they've already done, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right, training requirements. Employee education, 1 hour initially, 1 hour for an annual refresher. Supervisor training, 2 hours initially, 1 hour for an annual refresher. This is a big departure from what was in place for supervisors previously, or for employees previously, unless you were in what was called the EZ program. They had the what I call the Full Metal Jacket program, and then they had the EZ program. Some similar components in those programs, but the biggest difference was some of the training. The training requirements here are comparable to what was previously called the EZ program. And when I think back to some of the training that I've done and what was required within that training to get through a proper supervisory session, even a refresher, in 1 hour, I don't know how I do that. And adequately prepare your supervisors to execute and implement this program. I have no idea. The Bureau even makes mention that these are just basic time guidelines. You can exceed this if you want. And I would recommend that with your supervisory staff, that you give strong consideration to having a program that's not limited to just that hour. I don't think they'll be properly prepped, even on a refresher, to go out there and do this program. I don't know how you could do that. So, but I mean, if that's what you want, I'm sure you'll find someone that will provide that for you. But if your outcome goal is to have really a good, comprehensive, solid program, I don't think that time frame is probably very realistic. You might need a little bit more time in training to really have your people ready to go with this. Any questions about the training? Yes, Patty?
Is the training going to be the same as it was for the other one?
No, I mean, because there's some different components to the program. I think the basic flavor will be the same, and that's certainly for employees, describing for them, what the program is, how they're accountable under the provisions of the program, what the testing provisions are, reporting, involvement of the MCO, information as it flows back and forth between the employee, the company, the MCO, the testing facilities, the testing procedures. I think all that information will stay the same, but there are some differences. With the supervisors, there's some definite differences in some of the training. And actually with them, I'll get to that in a second, it involves what's called the accident review training that supervisors are gonna have to do.